And we're back with day 2 of our exercises. Now today we will be doing the ball bouncing across the screen. And yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and start. So for that we need a ball, and I'm going to use my circle tool and just create my ball like so. And I'm just going to change the color to white. And naturally I'm starting off with a color that contrasts the background, but we know that this necessarily won't be the end result. Now, again, there are many ways that you can animate in Synfig. I don't want you to take the way that I do this ball bouncing across the screen to be the only way. I've just decided, well, I have to choose one way in order to get the video done, right? So, but I don't want you to think that you're locked in to do it this one way. Now, I'm going to be placing this circle in a folder. Okay, but you can decide to just use the circle as is and animate these points. But I'm just going to put this in a folder, and I'm going to be putting this point down to the base here for the very same reason that I explained in my first exercise. And I'm going to move my line down here just so that we can have a ground plane. And let's decide here what we're going to do. So the ball, I want it to start bouncing, coming in from the left, then it comes in, bounce on the ground, bounces up, comes down, bounce up, and as it loses momentum, it begins to slow down before it rolls out of the screen. So let me try to simulate that using the sketch tool here. And please note that Synfig's sketching tool is not the best, but we're going to use it to do what we need to do. So I'm just going to draw the ball. Let's say the ball comes into the screen like maybe there, hits the ground, bounces up, something like that, and then maybe comes down like so, bounces, then comes up and bounces again, comes up, and as it's losing momentum, its height begins to drop, so it bounces down, comes down here, maybe like so, bounces here. Now these needs to be wider, but I'm having trouble actually drawing this with the mouse because I'm not using a tablet right now. All right, so this is a very rough sketch, a very horrible sketch of what we want the ball to do. So the ball comes in, bounces, and follows this particular trajectory. Now some things that we need to keep in mind is the squash and stretch, and of course the timing and spacing and all that stuff. I'm just going to rename this ball so that we know that we are working with a ball, and I'm going to make sure that I'm on the constant keyframe because I'm going to be animating straight ahead. So that's where we don't necessarily know where we're going, even though I have the the guide here, so I technically do know where I'm going. But anyway, let me turn on animate here and go to my move tool here, and I'm just going to come to frame 0, and I'm going to move my ball out here. Now what I want to do is to add a keyframe to each of my points here that I will be using in the animation, and all of these keyframes will be stored in this very first frame, so then we can just duplicate those frames and then alter it as we find necessary to do. Okay, so I'm going to add a keyframe for the circle point here by just moving it up and then moving it back into place, and that should add a circular keyframe. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the scale here by just moving it slightly and then moving it back into place. Do the same thing with this and this one here, and we already have one for the move, but I'll just add one again. Okay, so just make sure that you have a key for each of those, and I may not use the skew, but I'm going to add a keyframe for it nonetheless. And you can actually check to see if you have all of the keyframes by just opening up the option here in the transformation, and we can see that all the keys are there. Now let's begin animating. So I'm going to come to frame 1 here, and on frame 1 I want the ball to be here, and I want it to be stretching because it's already launched off of wherever it's coming from, so it would be in here and coming down, so it would be stretching. So let me just add that stretch like so, and you can exaggerate this as much as you want, but do it sparingly. You don't want it to look too ridiculous now, and I think this will work. So I'm just going to move it here, like maybe like so. All right, so this is our starting point, and I'm just going to duplicate this skew keyframe here. If you look down here, just going to duplicate that just so we can have all of the keyframes there, just in case we need them. And I'm just going to move down the timeline. Now we can move anywhere we want and add the second keyframe. And why we can do that? Because we're working inside of Synfig. We can move our keys anywhere we want them to go. All right, so if we decided that we don't want this to be here, we could just move it down on the timeline. So that's why we can really start anywhere. But I'm going to just come down here randomly, and I'm going to set my squash here. So I'm just going to move my key down here. Well, actually, what I'm going to do is duplicate the very first keyframe here, because that contains my main circle. And I'm going to move the circle down here, like so. And I'm going to create my squash out of this one right here. So let me just move this down, like so. That's too much. And I'm going to move this out, like so. And I think that squash is good enough for me. I mean, I could go down a bit more, but I think I'm okay with this right here. All right, and now I can go play back my animation to see what's going on. All right, so now I'm just going to go in between these frames and move my ball coming all the way down here. Okay, so it's as if we were blocking out what we're doing. So let me go to maybe 2 frames down here. I'm just going to move my ball down, like so. Yeah, and I keep on forgetting to duplicate the actual overall keys. So let me just duplicate those and then close this up here. And I'm going to duplicate this keyframe here, move it down 2 frames, and I'm going to position it here, like so. Let me run that back to see what we have. All right, now the more keys you put in, the more keyframes you put in, right, the smoother it will be. But I'm worried more about I'm more concerned with where the ball is going more than having multiple keyframes. So let me just take a look at that. And that is looking okay for a start to me. But let me actually just move this up a bit for the second keyframe here, and then come down here, move this up like so. And then I'm going to duplicate this, move it down. Let me move this out of the way, then move this down like so. Come here, then move my ball further down, like so. Okay, and let me check that out. Okay, that is looking fine. And then here we have the squash. So let me just move this 2 frames down, and we have that going on there. Okay, now basically at this stage we're just going to repeat what we did over here, and let me show you how we can do that. So I'm just going to come 2 frames down here, and the ball, after it squashes, of course it will begin to stretch again to go up. And we can just duplicate any of our stretches. Now we know that these 2 keyframes of our stretches, so we can just duplicate those and then just move them into place like so. All right, now the reason why we're doing this way is, well, among other reasons, is that one of the reasons is that we have more control over our ball here. Now of course we could have created a path and then applied the ball to the path, which would probably be more much easier, but we wouldn't have that much control. So sometimes it's best to do it the long way. So the ball is going up. Let me see here. All right, so that is looking fine to me. I'm just going to move 2 frames down, move the ball up, come over here like so. Okay, let me duplicate these frames here and then move them over, and I'm going to duplicate this, move it down like so, then move this up like so. And then once it touches this point here, it's going to come back to normal. So, and we know that our normal ball is stored in frame 0 here. So I can just duplicate that and move it down here like so, and bring it over here so that the ball goes back to its normal state like so, and just move it into place. So let me play that back and see what we have. All right, so that is looking fine. I mean, it could be a bit faster. I mean, we can always go back and adjust those frames, right? But what we're focusing on is getting the ball across the screen. Right, so by now you should get the idea, you know. So I might just fast forward me doing the rest of this until the ball goes across the screen, because you already get the gist of it, right? So I'm going to actually do that, and then we'll continue after I am done. So stay tuned and continue watching the video. Okay, so I'm just pretty much doing the same thing over and over, adding the keyframe and moving my ball along the trajectory. You know, pretty much the same things that I've been doing over and over. So you get the idea. And right here now I'm finished. So I'm just playing back the animation to see if there's any changes that I want to make. You know, but I like this, so I'm just going to keep it. At this point I got the idea to maybe my ball is a table tennis ball, you know, even though this is very large for a table tennis ball. But you know, yeah, around this point I got the idea to do some form of table tennis type of scene. So I created a bat, and what you're seeing here is just me animating the bat hitting the ball, well, or pretending to hit the ball, whichever way. All right, so yeah, now this idea came to me immediately after I was done with the basic animation, you know, so I'm really happy that it didn't take that long. And this is my end result. I also added a shadow, as you can see there. All right, and yeah, remember to post your result on the Synfig forum, and try to think outside of the box. You know, don't necessarily do the same thing that I did. So remember, once you finish the exercise, just add your own spin to it and make it yours. That's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.